I was standing in the parking lot of Save Mart on a regular Tuesday afternoon when I found a wallet on the ground between two cars. When I opened it to look for identification, I saw something that made my blood freeze. A small, silver key with my own name, Diane Morris, engraved on it clear as day. And I had never seen this wallet or this key in my entire life. I'm standing there in broad daylight holding a stranger's wallet that somehow contains a key with my name on it, and nothing about this made any sense at all. The wallet belonged to someone named Marcus Webb, according to his driver's license, a man I had never met, never heard of, and definitely never given a key to. But there it was, sitting right next to his credit cards, a key that had my name engraved on the side in delicate script lettering. And suddenly, my normal Tuesday afternoon shopping trip had turned into something I couldn't explain. My hands started shaking as I looked around the parking lot, half expecting someone to jump out and tell me this was some kind of joke. But the parking lot was nearly empty, just a few scattered cars and the sound of shopping carts rattling in the distance. I looked back down at the wallet, at Marcus Webb's face in his license photo. He looked to be in his mid-30s, clean-cut with dark hair and a slight smile. And then I looked at the key again, turning it over in my palm. The engraving was professional, not something someone just scratched on with a knife. This was deliberate, intentional. Someone had paid to have my name put on this key. But why? And how did it end up in a stranger's wallet? I'm Diane Morris. I'm 43 years old, and I've lived in the same town of Riverside, California my entire life. I work as a librarian at the public library. I live alone in a small house on Maple Street, and my life is as ordinary as it gets. I wake up, make coffee, go to work, come home, watch television, and go to bed. I don't have enemies. I don't have drama. I definitely don't have mysterious keys with my name on them showing up in random people's wallets. My mind was racing through possibilities. Maybe this Marcus Webb was a locksmith, and someone had ordered a key with my name on it. But that didn't make sense. Why would someone order a key with my name specifically? What would it even open? And why would a locksmith carry it around in his personal wallet with his credit cards and family photos? I looked at the other contents of the wallet. There was $87 in cash, 3 credit cards, a grocery store loyalty card, and a small photo of a woman and 2 kids smiling at the beach. Everything looked completely normal, except for this one impossible thing, this key that shouldn't exist. I stood there for probably 10 minutes, just staring at everything, trying to make sense of it. People walked past me going into the store, and I probably looked crazy, just standing there frozen with someone else's wallet in my hands. But I couldn't move. I couldn't process what I was seeing. Finally, I took a deep breath and made a decision. I had to return this wallet. I had to meet Marcus Webb and find out why he had a key with my name on it. There was no way I could just drop this in a lost and found box and walk away. I needed answers. I looked at the address on his driver's license, 2847 Oakwood Drive. That was only about 15 minutes from where I was standing, in a neighborhood I drove through sometimes on my way to work. Without really thinking about it, I got in my car and started driving. My heart was pounding the entire way there, and I kept glancing at the wallet sitting on my passenger seat. This whole thing felt surreal, like something out of a movie, not something that happened to quiet librarians on random Tuesday afternoons. When I pulled up to 2847 Oakwood Drive, I saw a modest 2-story house with blue siding and a well-maintained lawn. There was a silver Honda in the driveway and children's toys scattered across the front yard, a bicycle, a soccer ball, a small plastic slide. Everything looked completely normal. So ordinary. How did this normal-looking family fit into whatever strange situation I had stumbled into? I sat in my car for a few minutes trying to decide exactly what I was going to say. "Hi, I found your wallet, and by the way, why do you have a key with my name on it?" That sounded accusatory, like I was confronting him about something. Maybe, "Hi, I found your wallet in the Save Mart parking lot. I wanted to return it to you." And then casually mention the key? No, that sounded too casual. This wasn't casual. This was bizarre. Finally, I just got out of the car and walked up to the front door before I could change my mind. I rang the doorbell and waited. I could hear movement inside, footsteps, and then a child's voice yelling, "Daddy, someone's at the door!" The door opened, and there he was, Marcus Webb, in person. He looked exactly like his license photo, but more tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well. He was wearing jeans and a faded t-shirt, and he looked at me with polite confusion, clearly wondering who this random woman on his doorstep was. "Can I help you?" he asked, and his voice was friendly enough, but cautious. I held up the wallet. "I found this in the Save Mart parking lot about 20 minutes ago. I wanted to return it to you." His entire face changed. He looked relieved and shocked at the same time. "Oh my God, thank you so much." He reached for the wallet. "I've been looking everywhere for this. I didn't even realize I dropped it. When did you find it?" "Just now," I said. "But I need to ask you something." His hand was on the wallet now, but I didn't let go yet. I needed answers first. "Inside your wallet, there's a key. A silver key with my name engraved on it. Diane Morris. That's my name. Why do you have a key with my name on it?" Marcus Webb's face went completely white. He looked like someone had just punched him in the stomach. He stared at me with his mouth slightly open, not saying anything. And for a long moment, we just stood there in his doorway, him gripping one end of the wallet and me gripping the other. "You're Diane Morris?" he asked, and his voice was barely above a whisper. "Yes, I am. And I need to know why you have that key." His hand dropped from the wallet and he took a step back, looking past me toward the street like he was checking to see if anyone else was there. "Can you come inside? We need to talk, but not out here. My wife is inside with the kids." Every part of me was screaming that this was a bad idea. Never go into a stranger's house, especially when that stranger has unexplainable connections to you. But I also needed to know what was going on. So, against my better judgment, I nodded. "Okay." Marcus stepped aside and I walked into his house. The inside was as normal as the outside. Family photos on the walls, kids' drawings on the refrigerator, a living room scattered with toys. I could hear a television playing in another room and the sound of children laughing. "Wait here," he said, and disappeared down a hallway. I stood in his entryway, feeling increasingly uncomfortable about this whole situation. Every instinct told me to just leave, to put the wallet on the table and walk out. But my feet wouldn't move. I needed to know. When Marcus came back, he wasn't alone. A woman followed him, an attractive brunette in her late 30s who looked worried. "This is my wife, Sarah," he said. "Sarah, this is Diane Morris." Sarah's eyes went wide and she put her hand over her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Is this really happening?" I looked between the two of them, completely lost. What is happening? Why do you both know my name? Marcus and Sarah exchanged a look, and then Marcus gestured toward the couch. "Please sit down. This is going to take a while to explain." I sat down on their couch, still holding Marcus's wallet, because I honestly didn't trust giving it back yet, not until I understood what was going on. Marcus and Sarah sat across from me on another couch, and for a moment, nobody said anything. "Okay," Marcus finally said. "Let me start from the beginning. 3 years ago, my younger brother Daniel died. He was in a car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light. Daniel died instantly. He was only 28. "I'm sorry," I said quietly, "but I don't understand what this has to do with me." "I'm getting there," Marcus said. He took a deep breath. Daniel had a daughter, Emma. She was 5 years old when he died. Her mother died during childbirth, so Daniel was raising her alone. When he died, Emma had no one, no other family except me and Sarah. So we took her in. We adopted her. She's our daughter now. Our kids think of her as their sister." "Okay," I said, still not understanding. "Emma is 8 years old now. She's amazing, smart, funny, the best kid you could ask for. But there's one problem. She has these memories." Sarah leaned forward. "Memories of another life," she calls it.
She's been talking about it since she was 3 years old, before Daniel even died. She talks about a woman named Diane, who took care of her. She describes this whole other life in detail. A house on Maple Street, a library, a specific park. At first, we thought it was just an imaginary friend, something kids make up. But the details Emma provides, they're too specific, too consistent. My heart was starting to beat faster. Where is this going? Marcus looked me straight in the eye. Emma says that in her other life, before this one, she was your daughter. I felt like the room tilted. That's impossible, I whispered. I don't have a daughter. I've never had children. I've never even been married. I know, Marcus said. And we've spent years trying to figure this out. We thought maybe Emma was just confused. Maybe she saw you somewhere and created this elaborate story around you. But then about 6 months ago, Emma started getting more insistent. She said she needed to give you something, that it was important. And then last week, Emma gave Marcus a key. That key you found. She said it was yours, that she had kept it hidden and now she needed to return it to you. We didn't know what to do, so Marcus was carrying it around, trying to work up the courage to approach you. I looked down at the key in my hand. This didn't make sense. None of this made sense. Can I talk to Emma? I heard myself ask. Marcus and Sarah looked at each other again, and then Sarah stood up. I'll get her. She left the room and Marcus and I sat in uncomfortable silence. I could hear Sarah talking to someone in another room, a child's voice responding, and then footsteps coming back down the hall. Emma walked into the living room and my entire world stopped. She was small for 8 years old, with dark curly hair and bright green eyes. And the moment I saw her face, I felt something I couldn't explain. Recognition. A deep, bone-deep sense of knowing this child. I had never seen this little girl before in my life. I was absolutely certain of that. And yet something in my brain was screaming that I knew her, that I had always known her. Emma stopped in the doorway and stared at me with wide eyes. And then she smiled, the biggest, most genuine smile I'd ever seen. "Mama," she whispered. And before anyone could react, she ran across the room and threw her arms around me. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just sat there frozen as this strange child hugged me and called me Mama. And the worst part, the absolutely terrifying part, was that some deep buried part of me wanted to hug her back, wanted to hold this child and never let go. Sarah gently pulled Emma back. "Sweetie, this is Diane. She's not—" "No," Emma said firmly, still looking at me. "She is. She's my mama from before. She understands." I looked at Marcus and Sarah helplessly. I don't understand any of this. Emma sat down next to me on the couch, sitting way too close for a child who'd just met a stranger. "In my other life, you were my mom. We lived in the house on Maple Street, the one with the blue door and the garden in the back. You worked at the library, and every day after school, I'd come to the library and do my homework at the front desk while you worked. My actual house did have a blue door. I had planted a small garden last year. And yes, there was a desk at the front of the library where staff sometimes let their kids sit." Emma continued, "You used to read to me every night before bed. My favorite book was the one about the girl who found a secret garden. And we'd go to Morrison Park every Saturday and feed the ducks." Morrison Park. I went there sometimes. It was 3 blocks from my house. "But Emma," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I've never had a daughter. I would remember that." "I know," Emma said, and she didn't sound upset, just matter of fact. "You don't remember because it hasn't happened yet." "What do you mean it hasn't happened yet?" Sarah asked gently. Emma looked at her adopted mother. "In my other life, I was born in 2019. I lived with Mama Diane until I was 4, and then something bad happened. There was an accident and I died. But here, I was born in 2016 to Uncle Daniel's girlfriend. I'm living a different life now, but I remember the other one. I remember both." My throat was completely dry. "Let me see the key," Emma said. I handed it to her and she turned it over in her small hands, examining it. "You gave this to me on my 4th birthday. You said it was a key to our house so I could always come home. You put my name on it. But see, you spelled it wrong. You put Diane instead of Emma, because you said one that I'd understand why." I looked at the engraving, the careful script letters spelling out Diane Morris. This key had never had Emma's name on it, had it? That's my name, I said, not Emma's. Emma smiled at me, the kind of smile that was too wise for an 8-year-old. In my other life, my full name was Emma Diane Morris. You named me after yourself. I felt like I was going to be sick. This was impossible. All of it was impossible. And yet this child knew things she shouldn't know. She knew about my house, my work, the park I visited. She had a key with my name on it. Marcus spoke up. We had Emma tested by child psychologists. They said she's completely healthy, just has an active imagination, but we've never been able to explain how she knows so much about you. We've never mentioned you to her, never shown her pictures, nothing. She just knows. I looked at Emma, really looked at her, and that feeling of recognition washed over me again, stronger this time. You need to keep the key, Emma said, pushing it back toward my hand. You're going to need it later, when Emma comes. When Emma comes? I repeated stupidly. Emma nodded. In 2019, you're going to have a baby. You're going to name her Emma, and you're going to give her this key. I started, but I didn't know how to finish that sentence. I don't have a boyfriend. I'm not seeing anyone. I don't have plans to have children. Any of this. Emma shrugged. That's what the other you said too at first, but then you met James at the library conference in September, 2 months from now, and everything changed. James? Who's James? I whispered. Emma tilted her head like she was trying to remember. He had brown hair and glasses. He worked at a library in Sacramento. You became friends, and then more than friends, and then I was born. I looked at Marcus and Sarah. They're as confused as you are, Marcus said. Emma has mentioned this James person before, but we don't know who he is. Emma stood up and walked over to a bookshelf in the living room. She pulled out a small box from behind some books and brought it back to me. This is for you, she said, handing me the box. Inside was a stack of papers, drawings that Emma had clearly made. They were pictures of a woman and a little girl, at a park, reading books, playing in a garden. Every picture showed the same 2 people over and over in different scenes. Emma pointed at the woman in the drawings. That's you, and that's me in the other life. I drew these so I wouldn't forget. The drawings were good, too good for an 8-year-old. They had details and perspective that seemed beyond their years. I looked through them one by one, and with each picture, that feeling in my chest got stronger, this sense of impossible recognition. In one drawing, the woman and child were baking cookies in a kitchen, and I could see details in the background. A specific clock on the wall, a plant in a blue pot. I had that exact same clock in my kitchen. I had a plant in that exact same blue pot. How did you know about my clock? I asked Emma, and my voice was shaking. I lived there, like I told you. I drew what I remembered. I couldn't take this anymore. I stood up abruptly. Thank you for explaining this, but I need to go. This is all too much. Marcus stood too. Please wait. We're not trying to scare you. We wanted you to know.
We wanted to understand this as much as you do. I started walking toward the door. Emma's voice stopped me. You're going to name her Emma Diane Morris, and her birthday is going to be March 15th, 2019. And she's going to love strawberry ice cream more than anything, and you're going to be the best mama in the whole world. Until what? I asked, turning back. Emma's face fell. Until the accident. You were taking me to the library on my 4th birthday. There was a car that ran a red light. We were both in the car. You survived. I didn't. The room was completely silent. No one seemed to know what to say. I looked at this strange, impossible child who claimed to remember being my daughter in another life, who somehow knew details about my house, my routine, my life. And that's why you have to keep the key, Emma said quietly. Because when Emma comes, when the new Emma is born, you need to remember that life is short. You need to keep her safe. Don't take her in the car that day. Stay home. I felt tears running down my face, and I didn't even know why. I'm sorry, I whispered.
I don't know what else to say. Emma walked over and took my hand. It's okay. You don't have to believe me right now. But you will, in September, when you meet James. And then in 2019, when Emma is born, you'll remember this day. You'll remember me. And you'll keep her safe this time. She squeezed my hand and then let go. I walked out of that house in a complete daze. I got in my car and just sat there for a long time, staring at the key in my hand and the drawings Emma had given me. This was insane. All of it was insane. There was no rational explanation for any of this. Children don't remember past lives. That's not how the world works. And yet, Emma knew things she couldn't possibly know. She had details about my life that no one should have. I drove home and spent the rest of the night looking through Emma's drawings over and over. There were dozens of them, scenes from a life I had never lived. And yet, in each one, I felt something stirring, like a memory just out of reach. The next 2 months passed in a strange fog. I kept the key on my keychain, even though I didn't know what it opened. I kept Emma's drawings in my bedside table, and sometimes late at night, I'd take them out and look at them, trying to understand. I thought about Emma every single day. This strange little girl who called me Mama, who claimed to remember a life we'd shared. I told myself it was all just coincidence, that Emma was a disturbed child with an overactive imagination. But I couldn't quite make myself believe that. And then September came, and I went to the annual California Library Conference in Sacramento, just like I did every year. It was a 3-day event, and on the second day, during a break between sessions, I was getting coffee from the hotel lobby when someone bumped into me from behind. "Oh, I'm so sorry," the man said. And when I turned around, I saw him. Brown hair, glasses, friendly smile, a name tag that said James Chen, Sacramento Public Library. My brain just stopped working. "James?" I whispered, and his smile faltered a bit. "Yes? Do we know each other? I started, but I couldn't finish. I was staring at this man, this complete stranger who Emma had described 2 months ago, the man I supposedly was going to meet, the man who was supposedly going to be the father of my future child. James looked concerned. "Are you okay? Can I get you some water or something?" I managed to pull myself together. "Sorry, you reminded me of someone I used to know. I'm Diane Morris." We shook hands, and his hand was warm and solid and real. "And I'm James. It's nice to meet you. What library do you work at?" "Riverside Public Library," I said. And I was operating on autopilot at this point. My brain was screaming, "This is him. This is really him. Emma was right. How did she know?" "I work in the Youth Services Department," James said. "What about you?" "Reference and research." We started talking, and it was easy, natural. James was funny and kind and interesting. And by the end of the conference, we had exchanged phone numbers and email addresses and made vague plans to maybe get coffee sometime. When I got home, I sat in my car in my driveway for 30 minutes, just trying to process everything. Emma had been right. She had predicted this exact meeting with this exact person. And if she was right about this, what else was she right about? Over the next few months, James and I became friends. We'd email back and forth, text occasionally, talk on the phone about library stuff, about books, about life. And slowly that friendship started becoming something more. By December, we had gone on our first official date. By February, we were spending every weekend together. By April, James said he loved me. And I realized I loved him too. In June, James got a job transferred to a library branch in Riverside so he could be closer to me. He moved into an apartment 10 minutes from my house, and suddenly my quiet, solitary life wasn't so solitary anymore. And through all of this, I never told James about Emma. About the wallet, about the key, about the impossible prediction that had come true. I told myself it was just coincidence, that Emma had made a lucky guess. But in my heart, I knew better. Emma had known this was going to happen. Somehow she had known.
In March of the following year, 2019, I found out I was pregnant. James was thrilled, scared but thrilled. I was terrified because I knew what Emma had said. I knew what she claimed would happen. A daughter born March 15th, 2019, named Emma Diane Morris. And that's exactly what happened. Our daughter was born on March 15th, 3 weeks early, but healthy and perfect. And when the nurse asked what we wanted to name her, I looked at James and said, Emma Diane Morris. James smiled. I love that. Diane is a middle name after you. That's perfect. I held my tiny newborn daughter and looked at her face, really looked at her, and I felt that same feeling of recognition I'd felt when I met the other Emma. This impossible sense of knowing this child. And that night, after James went home and Emma was sleeping in the hospital bassinet next to my bed, I took out my phone. And I found Marcus Webb's number, which I had saved 2 years ago but never called. I texted him. She's here. Emma was born today, March 15th, just like your Emma said. Marcus responded within minutes. Congratulations, Diane. Our Emma wanted me to tell you something. She says to trust your instincts. She says you'll know when to keep her safe. What does that mean? I typed back, but Marcus didn't respond. Emma and I went home from the hospital, and life became a beautiful, exhausting blur of feeding and diapers and sleepless nights. James was an amazing father, patient and loving and devoted. We moved in together when Emma was 6 months old. We got married at the courthouse when she was 1 year old. And life was better than I ever imagined it could be. Emma grew and changed every day. She had dark curly hair, just like the other Emma. She loved books, just like the other Emma. And when she was 2 years old, I took her to Morrison Park and we fed the ducks, just like the other Emma had described. And through all of this, I kept that silver key on my keychain. I never told James about it, never explained where it came from, but I kept it because somewhere in the back of my mind, I remembered what the other Emma had said. Keep her safe, don't take her in the car that day. Emma's 4th birthday was coming, March 15th, 2023. And as the date got closer, I started feeling increasingly anxious. I didn't know why at first, but then one night, about a week before her birthday, I had a dream. In the dream, I was driving Emma somewhere, and a car ran a red light, and I woke up in a cold sweat, remembering what the other Emma had said. There was an accident. You were taking me to the library on my 4th birthday. There was a car that ran a red light. I couldn't breathe. I got out of bed and went to check on Emma. She was sleeping peacefully in her room, surrounded by stuffed animals and books, and I stood in her doorway for a long time just watching her breathe. The next morning, I told James that I wanted to have Emma's birthday party at home instead of going out. He looked surprised. Usually we went out for birthdays, to the Children's Museum or the zoo. Are you sure? He asked. I think it would be special to have everyone come here, I said. And safer, I almost added, but didn't. James agreed, and we planned a party at our house for the afternoon of March 15th. Friends, family, cake, and presents in our backyard. The morning of Emma's birthday, she woke up excited, jumping on our bed. Mama, it's my birthday! I'm 4 years old now! Yes, you are, baby, I said, pulling her close. You're 4 years old. Can we go to the library, Leader? She asked. I want to show Miss Patterson my new book. My blood went cold. Miss Patterson was Emma's favorite children's librarian. Emma asked to visit her all the time. Maybe tomorrow, I said. How about today we just stay home and have your party? She pouted a little but agreed, and I felt a wave of relief. Later that afternoon, while Emma was napping before her party, I was in the kitchen preparing food when my phone rang. It was Marcus Webb. I almost didn't answer. We hadn't spoken since that text when Emma was born, but something made me pick up. Hello? Diane, Marcus said, and his voice sounded strange, urgent. Emma. Our Emma. She's been insistent all morning that I call you. She says it's important. She says you need to know. What does she need me to know? I asked, my heart already racing. She says today's the day. She says you have to keep Emma home no matter what. Don't go anywhere. Don't drive anywhere. Just stay home. She's been crying, saying it's important that you understand. I swallowed hard. I'm keeping her home. We're having her party here. We're not going anywhere. Good, Marcus said. Emma says that's good. She says to tell you that she loves you and that she's so happy you kept her safe.
And she says one more thing. The key, the one she gave you years ago, keep it forever. Give it to Emma when she's old enough. It's a reminder that some connections last across time, across lives. Just keep her safe, Diane, okay? I promise, I whispered, and I meant it. That afternoon, we had Emma's 4th birthday party in our backyard. 20 friends and family members came. We ate cake, we opened presents. Emma laughed and played and was completely happy and safe. And at one point, while I was watching her play with her friends, James came up behind me and put his arms around me. "She's perfect," he said. "Yes, she is," I agreed. Emma caught my eye from across the yard and smiled at me, that same too wise smile I'd seen on the other Emma 4 years ago. And in that moment, I understood. Some things can't be explained. Some connections exist beyond normal understanding. The other Emma, whoever or whatever she was, had given me a gift. She'd given me a warning, and I had listened. That night, after everyone had gone home and Emma was sleeping, I took out the silver key and really looked at it. The engraving, Diane Morris, in careful script letters.
A key that had traveled through an impossible journey to save a life? I went to Emma's room and watched her sleep. This beautiful, perfect 4-year-old child who was alive and safe because another version of her had remembered, had loved her enough to reach across whatever divide existed between lives to warn me. Tomorrow morning, Emma and I would wake up and have a normal day. We'd read books and go to the park and do all the ordinary things that make up a life. But there would be one critical difference. We wouldn't drive to the library. We wouldn't be at that intersection at that moment. And because of that, Emma would get to grow up. She'd get to be 5 and 6 and 10 and 20 and whatever age she was meant to reach. I put the key on Emma's dresser where I'd keep it safe until she was old enough to understand its story. I kissed her forehead and whispered thank you to whatever force had made this possible. Thank you to the other Emma for loving her future self enough to try to save her. As I left Emma's room and turned off the light, I heard her sleepy voice behind me. "Love you, Mama." I turned back, but Emma was sound asleep. She hadn't actually spoken, but somehow I felt the words anyway. Not just from my Emma, but from the other one too. From the little girl who had given a stranger her most precious possession and trusted that I would understand. "Love you too, baby," I whispered back. "Both of you." And I meant it with every piece of my heart. The next morning, March 16th, I woke up to James making breakfast in the kitchen. Emma was at the table coloring, and sunlight was streaming through the windows. Everything felt peaceful, normal, perfect. I checked my phone and saw a news alert. There had been a serious accident yesterday afternoon at the intersection of 5th and Main. A drunk driver had run a red light and collided with another vehicle. The other driver had survived, but with serious injuries. I stared at that intersection, 5th and Main. That was the route we always took to get to the library. If Emma and I had gone yesterday, if we'd kept our usual routine, we would have been at that intersection at exactly the right time. The phone slipped from my hand and clattered on the counter. James looked over. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I managed to say. "Just clumsy." I walked over to Emma and pulled her into a tight hug. She giggled. "Mama, you're squishing me." "Sorry, baby," I said, kissing the top of her head. "I just love you so much." "I love you too," she said, and went back to her coloring, completely unaware that she had just escaped death, that another version of herself had reached across the impossible to save her life. Later that day, when Emma was playing in the backyard, I called Marcus Webb. Emma answered the phone. "Hello, Diane," she said, and her voice was calm, relieved. "You kept her home." "Yes, I did, Emma. Thank you. Thank you for warning me, for saving her." I could hear the smile in her voice. "I told you I remembered. I told you I'd help keep her safe. Now she gets to grow up. Now she gets to have the life I didn't get to finish." "Do you remember me?" Emma asked quietly. "Do you remember the other life?" I wanted to say no. I wanted to say that was all just a story, just a child's imagination. But that would be a lie. Sometimes, late at night, I have dreams.
Dreams of a little girl with curly hair, dreams of reading stories and feeding ducks and baking cookies, dreams that feel like memories of something that never happened to me, but happened to some other version of me. Yes, I whispered. I think I do. Good, Emma said, because that means some part of us will always be connected. You, me, the other me, all of us. We're all part of the same story, just written in different ways. I wiped tears from my eyes. Thank you, Emma, not just for the warning, but for loving her enough to save her. Of course, she said. That's what mothers do. They protect their children, even across impossible distances, even when nobody believes them. You protected her too, Diane. You listened, and that's all I needed. We talked for a few more minutes, and then Emma had to go. Marcus got back on the phone. She's remarkable, I said to him. She really is, Marcus agreed. We still don't fully understand it, any of it, but we've stopped trying to explain it. We just love her and trust that some things are beyond our understanding. That's all we can do. That's all any of us can do, I agreed. That night, I was putting Emma to bed, and she looked up at me. Mama, can I ask you something? Of course, baby, I said. What do you think happens when people die? Emma asked, and my heart stopped. Where did that come from? I don't know, sweetie. Why do you ask? She shrugged. I just wonder sometimes if, when people die, they get to come back as someone else. Like, maybe they get another chance. I sat down on her bed. That's an interesting thought. Do you think that's what happens? Maybe, she said, and then she reached under her pillow and pulled out a small drawing. I drew this today. She handed it to me, and I looked at the picture. It showed two little girls who looked almost identical, holding hands. One was wearing a blue dress, and the other was wearing a red dress. Who are they? I asked. Emma pointed at the girl in blue. That's me. And that's also me, she pointed at the girl in red. We're the same, but different. Does that make sense? I looked at my daughter, this 4-year-old child who somehow understood things she shouldn't understand. Yes, baby, I whispered. That makes perfect sense. Emma smiled, snuggled into her blankets, and closed her eyes. I love you, Mama. I love you too, Emma, I said, and I meant both Emmas, the one in my arms and the one who saved her. I kept that drawing along with all the others that the first Emma had given me. I put them in a box that I kept in my closet, and sometimes when Emma, the one I was raising, was at school or asleep, I'd take them out and look at them. These impossible pictures from an impossible child who loved her future self enough to try to save her. Months passed, then years. Emma grew from 4 to 5 to 6, and she continued to be remarkable.
Smart and curious and kind, just like both versions of her had been. She loved books and parks and feeding ducks. She loved strawberry ice cream more than anything. She was cautious around cars, which I never quite understood until one day when she was 7, she asked, Mama, why do I get scared every time we drive past that big intersection, the one with all the lights? I looked at her in the rearview mirror. I'm not sure, baby. Why do you think you get scared? She thought about it. I don't know. It's like something bad happened there, but I know it didn't because I've never been in an accident. Maybe in another life, I said softly. Maybe, I agreed. And I met her eyes in the mirror, and something passed between us, some understanding that went beyond words. When Emma turned 8, the same age the other Emma had been when I first met her, I decided it was time. I took out the box of drawings and the silver key, and I sat Emma down at the kitchen table. I want to tell you a story, I said, a true story, about something that happened before you were born. Emma listened wide-eyed as I told her everything, about finding the wallet, about meeting Marcus and Sarah and the other Emma, about the predictions that came true, about the warning, about the accident that never happened because I had kept her home. Emma didn't interrupt once, and when I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, So there's another me somewhere who remembers being me, who saved me. Not somewhere, I said,
touching her face gently. "I think she's in here, with you. I think you're both the same person, somehow." Emma picked up the key and turned it over in her hands, looking at the engraving. "What does it open?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I've never found a lock it fits." "Maybe it doesn't open anything physical," Emma said. "Maybe it's just a reminder." "That's what I think too," I said. Emma looked at the drawings the other Emma had made, spending a long time on each one. "These are good," she said finally. "She really loved you." "She really loved me," I corrected. "She saved you because she loved her future self, because she wanted you to have the chance she didn't get." Emma nodded, and I saw tears in her eyes. "Can I keep these?" "Of course. They're yours," I said. Emma gathered up all the drawings and the key and took them to her room. When James got home that night, I told him everything, the whole impossible story. He listened carefully, and when I finished, he was quiet for a while. "You really believe this?" he finally asked. "That a different version of Emma somehow warned you to save our Emma's life?" "I don't know what I believe," I admitted. "But I know that Emma told me things she couldn't have known. I know that I met you exactly when and how she predicted. I know that our daughter was born exactly when she said. And I know that if I had driven to the library that day, we would have been in that accident." James reached for my hand. "Whether it was really another life or just an impossible coincidence or something we can't explain, I'm grateful you kept her home that day." "So am I." James squeezed my hand. "Do you think you'll ever see the other Emma again? The one from the other family?" "I don't know," I said. "But I hope so. I'd like to thank her properly." Years later, when Emma was 12, she came to me with a request. "Mama, can we go visit that family? The Webbs? I want to meet the girl who saved me." I had stayed in occasional contact with Marcus over the years, exchanging brief emails on Emma's birthday, but I had never gone back to their house, never tried to see the other Emma again. Part of me was afraid that the magic would be broken, that I'd discover it had all been delusion or coincidence. But Emma wanted to meet her other self, and I couldn't deny her that. I called Marcus and explained. Marcus sounded pleased. "Emma talks about you sometimes, about your Emma. She'd love to meet her." So one Saturday afternoon, Emma and I drove to 2847 Oakwood Drive, the same house I'd visited 8 years earlier. The blue siding was now gray, and the yard had different toys scattered around, but it was unmistakably the same place. Marcus answered the door, and he looked older, tired but happy. "Diane," he said, smiling, "and this must be Emma." He looked at my Emma with wonder. "You look so much like her, like our Emma." My Emma smiled nervously. "Hi." Emma, Marcus's Emma, was waiting in the living room. She was 16 now, tall and beautiful, and when she saw my Emma, she burst into tears. "Oh my God," she whispered. "You're here. You're really here." The two Emmas stared at each other, and I watched something pass between them, some recognition, some connection that I couldn't fully understand. "I remember you," the older Emma said to the younger one, "or I remember being you, being saved." "That's weird," the younger Emma said, "but I think I remember you too. I have dreams sometimes of being older, of trying to warn someone, of trying to save them." They sat down on the couch together and started talking while Marcus and I and Sarah, who had come in from the kitchen, stood back and watched them. "They're so alike," Sarah said quietly. "The same mannerisms, the same expressions. It's remarkable." Over the next few hours, the two Emmas talked and laughed and compared their lives. They discovered they both loved the same books, the same foods, the same parks. They both were cautious around cars. They both had the same recurring dream about feeding ducks at Morrison Park. Before we left, the older Emma gave my Emma something small wrapped in tissue paper. "Open it later," she said, "when you're alone." My Emma nodded, and we said our goodbyes. On the drive home, Emma was quiet, processing everything. "Okay?" I asked. She nodded. "I think so. That was just really weird, Mama, but good weird. I'm glad we went." When we got home, Emma went to her room to open the gift. I gave her privacy, but later she came to find me holding something in her hand. "Look," she said, and showed me. It was a small bracelet, handmade with wooden beads, and on each bead was painted a tiny picture: a book, a duck, a key, a heart.
"She made this for me," Emma said, "and she also wrote me a letter." She handed me a folded piece of paper, and I read it. "Dear Emma, I don't fully understand what happened or how I remember things I shouldn't remember, but I know that I loved you before you were even born. I know that I tried to save you because you deserved the life I didn't get to finish. Keep this bracelet as a reminder that you're special, that you're loved across time and space and possibility. And remember what I told your mom so many years ago. Life is short. Keep the people you love safe. Tell them you love them every day. Don't take anything for granted. I lived 4 years in my first life, and now I'm living a second chance as someone else's daughter, and every day I'm grateful. But I'm most grateful for you, for the chance to save you, for the chance to meet you. Keep living, Emma. Keep being amazing. And when you're old enough and strong enough, maybe you'll save someone else too. Maybe that's how love works. It just keeps moving forward, saving people, even when it seems impossible. Love always, the other Emma." I folded the letter carefully and handed it back to my daughter. Emma put the bracelet on her wrist, and it fit perfectly. "She knew," I said. My Emma, she somehow knew everything. "That's impossible," I said. "But yes, she knew." My Emma smiled, and I saw in her face both versions of her, the one I had raised and the one who had saved her. "Thank you for believing her, Mama. Thank you for keeping me safe." "Of course, baby," I said, pulling her close. "That's what mothers do." Life continued. Emma grew into a teenager, then a young woman. She kept the bracelet from the other Emma and wore it almost every day. She kept the drawings and the key in a special box in her room, and sometimes I'd find her looking at them quietly, thinking about the impossible story that had saved her life. I stayed in contact with Marcus and his Emma. They would visit sometimes, and the two Emmas would spend hours talking, comparing notes on their parallel lives. It was strange and beautiful and impossible and completely real. When my Emma turned 21, she came to me with news. "Mama, I'm going to study psychology in graduate school. I want to research childhood memories and past life experiences. I want to try to understand what happened to the other Emma and to me." "I think that's wonderful," I said. "Does the other Emma know?" My Emma nodded. "I called her yesterday. She thinks it's perfect. She says maybe we can finally get some answers." "Or maybe there are no answers," I said. "Maybe some things are just meant to be mysteries." Emma smiled. "Maybe. But I have to try. I have to understand. Because if what happened to us is real, if memories really can cross between lives, then think of how many other people might be experiencing this. Think of how many other people might need help understanding it, or might need warnings like the one that saved me." "You're going to help people," I said. "I'm going to try," Emma said, "just like the other Emma helped me."
That night, I took out the silver key for what felt like the 1,000th time and really looked at it. This small object that had traveled such an impossible journey from one life to another, from one Emma to another, and finally to me just in time to save my daughter. I had never found out what it was supposed to unlock, what door or box or safe it had been made for, but I realized that didn't matter. The key had already done its job. It had unlocked the most important thing of all: a mother's instinct to protect her child, even before that child existed. Years passed, and my Emma became Dr. Emma Morris, clinical psychologist specializing in childhood memories and past life research. She published papers, she gave lectures, she helped families who were dealing with children who claimed to remember previous lives. And through it all, she wore the bracelet and kept the key and stayed close to the other Emma, the one who had saved her. But the story doesn't end there, because Emma's research brought her to cases that would challenge everything we thought we understood about memory and consciousness and life itself. 3 years into her practice, Emma called me one evening. "Mama, I need to tell you about a case I'm working on. There's a boy named Michael. He's 6 years old, and he's been telling his parents about a sister he had in another life, a sister who died when he was young. His parents brought him to me because they don't know what to do. And, Mama, the details he's giving, they're verifiable. He's describing real events that happened to a real family in another state 10 years ago." I felt chills run down my spine. "Have you contacted that family?" "Not yet," Emma said. "I wanted to talk to you first because Michael says his sister's name was Diana, and she died in a car accident when she was 4. Mama, I think this might be connected to our story somehow. I don't understand how, but I feel it." I met Michael the next week. Emma brought him to my house, and the moment I saw him, I felt that same impossible recognition I'd felt with the first Emma. Michael was small for his age, with bright blue eyes and sandy blonde hair. And when he looked at me, he smiled. "Aunt Diane," he said, even though we'd never met, even though he couldn't possibly know my name. Emma's mouth fell open. "Michael, how do you know her name?" "In my other life, Diana was my sister. She used to visit us all the time. She was the best. She would read to me and play games and take me to the park. But then there was the accident, and she died, and I was so sad." Michael's parents, who had come with him, looked at each other in shock. "We've never told him about anyone named Diane," his mother said. "We don't know anyone named Diane." Emma looked at me, and I knew we were both thinking the same thing. This was bigger than we'd imagined. Whatever was happening, it wasn't just about Emma. It was about multiple lives, multiple connections, multiple people remembering things they shouldn't remember. Over the next few months, Emma worked with Michael and discovered that he was remembering a real life, a real family. The Hendersons, who lived in Oregon and who had lost their 4-year-old daughter Diana in a car accident in 2015. Michael claimed to be the younger brother from that life, and the details he provided matched perfectly. Emma contacted the Henderson family, and at first they were skeptical. They thought it was some kind of scam or cruel joke. But when Emma showed them videos of Michael describing their old house, their family vacations, their daughter's favorite toys, things that had never been publicized or posted online, they agreed to meet him. The meeting was both beautiful and heartbreaking. Michael walked into the room and immediately ran to Mrs. Henderson and hugged her. "Mama," he said, "I missed you so much." Mrs. Henderson just held him and cried, and Mr. Henderson stood there with tears streaming down his face as this little boy, who was a stranger but somehow wasn't, described memories that only their lost son would know. They spent hours together that day, Michael and the Hendersons, talking about the life they'd shared, comparing memories, and at the end, Mrs. Henderson said to Emma, "I don't understand how this is possible. I don't understand any of it. But I know that this child remembers my son. I know that somehow, some part of Tommy, my son who died 2 years before Diana, is inside this child, and it's a gift I never thought I'd receive." Emma's research exploded after that. She found dozens of cases, children all over the country who remembered previous lives, who could provide verifiable details about people and places they'd never encountered in their current life. She published a groundbreaking paper that got attention from researchers worldwide. She appeared on television programs and gave TEDx talks. And through it all, she remained humble and focused on helping these children and their families understand what was happening to them. But there was one case that affected Emma more than any other. A 7-year-old girl named Lily who came to Emma's office with her parents. And the moment Emma saw her, she knew. Lily looked almost exactly like Emma had at that age. Same dark curly hair, same green eyes, same smile. And when Lily spoke, her first words were, "I remember you. You're the one who saved me." Emma sat down hard in her chair. "What did you say?" "I remember you," Lily repeated. "In my other life, you warned your mama about the accident. You kept me safe. Thank you." Emma looked at Lily's parents, but they just shrugged. "We have no idea what she's talking about," they said. "She's never met you before." Emma knelt down in front of Lily. "Sweetie, I need you to tell me what you remember. Everything." Lily talked for over an hour. She described being a child named Sophie, who lived in Florida with her mother Rachel, and how Rachel had met a woman at a conference who told her about past lives and warnings and keys, and how Rachel had been so afraid when Sophie turned 4 that she kept her home from everywhere for a week, and how that decision had saved Sophie's life because there had been an accident at the school, a terrible accident that killed 3 children. Sophie had survived only because her mother had listened to a stranger's impossible warning. Except Rachel hadn't been at any conference, and she'd never met anyone who warned her. She'd just had a feeling, a strong, undeniable feeling that she needed to keep Sophie home that week. I called Emma that night. "Mama, I think I saved more than just me when I warned you. I think somehow that warning rippled out. I think other mothers heard it somehow. Other children were saved. I don't understand how, but Lily remembers being one of them." I thought about the dreams I'd had over the years. Dreams of talking to women I didn't know. Dreams of warning them about dangers. Dreams that I'd always dismissed as just dreams. But what if they weren't just dreams? What if the other Emma's warning had created some kind of wave across whatever connected these lives? What if love really could reach that far, could touch that many people? Over the next few years, Emma documented 17 cases of children who remembered being saved from the car accident that had killed the first Emma. The older Emma came to visit me after James died. She was in her 30s now, a teacher and a mother herself with 2 children of her own. She brought flowers and we sat in my garden drinking tea. "I'm sorry about James," she said. "I know how much you loved him." "I did," I said. "I do still, and I think I always will, even if I don't see him again until whatever comes next." Emma was quiet for a moment, then said, "Diane, I need to tell you something I've never told anyone, not even Marcus and Sarah." "What is it?" "Sometimes I remember other lives. Not just the one where I was your daughter, but others too. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. I remember being different people in different times, all connected somehow, all part of one big pattern. And in every single life, there's love. People loving each other so much that they find ways to stay connected, to protect each other, to save each other. I think that's what this is all about. Not the mystery of it or the science, but the love. That's beautiful," I said. And terrifying, she added, smiling, but mostly beautiful. We sat together for a long time that afternoon, two women connected by an impossible story, bound by love that had crossed whatever barriers existed between lives. When Diana, my granddaughter, turned 8, the same age the first Emma had been when I met her, Emma brought her to visit me. Diana had grown into a remarkable child, smart and kind and curious about everything, and she had started asking questions about the key that had been passed down through our family. "Why is my name on this key?" she asked me, even though it clearly says Diane on it. I smiled and pulled out the box of drawings that the first Emma had made so many years ago. "Let me tell you a story," I said, "a story about love and time, and how sometimes the people who save us are versions of ourselves we haven't met yet." Diana listened to the whole story without interrupting, and when I finished, she looked at the key in her hand with new understanding. So the other Emma loved my mom so much that she found a way to save her, even though they'd never met? "Yes," I said, "that's exactly right. And your mom loves you the same way, and I love both of you. And that love goes on, connecting all of us." Diana smiled and put the key on a chain around her neck. "I'll keep it safe," she promised. "And when I have a daughter, I'll tell her the story too." "Good," I said, "because some stories need to be told over and over again, so we don't forget what's really important." "What's really important?" Diana asked. "Love," I said. "Love is what's really important. Love is what crosses time and space and death. Love is what saves us over and over again." Diana hugged me tight. "I love you, Grandma." "I love you too, baby," I said. "So much more than you know." I lived to see Diana grow up. I lived to see her graduate from high school and start college. I lived to see Emma's son Marcus become a doctor. I lived to be 82 years old. And through all of it, I kept the key close, kept the drawing safe, kept the story alive, because that's what the other Emma had asked me to do. Without words, she'd asked me to remember, to honor the love that had saved us all, to pass the story down so it would never be forgotten. On my 82nd birthday, Emma threw me a party, and all the families came again. The children who remembered being saved were adults now, with children of their own. They brought their kids to meet me, to hear the story, to understand the miracle that had saved their parents. And those children listened with wide eyes as I told them about the wallet and the key and the impossible warning. And when I finished, one of them, a little boy about 6 years old, raised his hand. "I have a question," he said. "Yes, sweetheart?" I said. His name was Oliver, and he looked at me with such seriousness. "Do you think love can save people who aren't even born yet? Like, could we save people in the future?" "Yes," I said, without hesitation. "Yes, I absolutely believe that. Because that's exactly what the other Emma did. She saved someone who wasn't born yet. She saved your parents and your aunts and uncles. She saved all of you by saving them. And maybe that's what we're all supposed to do. Maybe we're all supposed to love so fiercely that it reaches forward into the future and keeps people safe." Oliver smiled. "I'm going to do that," he said. "I'm going to love people so much that future people get saved." "Good," I said. "The world needs more of that." Sometimes late at night, I think about that Tuesday afternoon in the Save Mart parking lot when I found a wallet and everything changed. I think about the other Emma, the one who loved so deeply that she found a way to save her future self across whatever impossible barrier separated them. I don't know if it was reincarnation or parallel universes or some other phenomenon that science hasn't discovered yet. I don't know if the other Emma really died in a car accident in another timeline and was reborn with her memories intact. I don't know any of those things for certain, but I know what I know. I know that Emma predicted the future with impossible accuracy. I know that she saved my daughter's life. I know that love can bridge gaps we don't even know exist. And I know that somewhere out there, in whatever comes after this life, the other Emma is happy knowing that the Emma in this life got to grow up, got to live, got to be saved. My name is Diane Morris. I'm 82 years old now, and I've lived a quiet, ordinary life, except for one extraordinary thing. One impossible thing. I found a wallet with a key inside, and that key unlocked a mystery that saved my daughter's life and taught me that love is stronger than death, stronger than time, stronger than anything we can imagine. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.